My stepsister, Marissa Kent, has always treated stealing the spotlight from me as her life's greatest joy. She used every sly trick she could find to make me the villain in the eyes of my father and the rest of the family. Years later, I returned home with a new fiancé, curious to see what games she would play this time. She openly flirted with him while sending me silent challenges with her eyes. Bringing him right in front of me, she clearly believed I either couldn't or wouldn't take him from her. I almost laughed. That man was chosen carefully for her, not me. I wanted her to try. I wanted her to take the bait. It was the evening of my father's birthday celebration in San Francisco. I arrived with Logan Pierce, my fiancé, walking up the driveway of the Sullivan family home. Before we even reached the door, Marissa came flying out, all false warmth, wrapping her arms around me like we were long-lost best friends. Leaning close to my ear, her voice dropped to a mocking whisper, asking if I had brought my fiancé to prove I was no longer depressed, or if I was so sure she couldn't possibly take him away from me. I gave her a slow, cold smile, stepped back, slid my arm through Logan's, and walked straight into the glittering foyer. The moment my father, Martin Sullivan, saw me, his face darkened. "So you still remember your way home? You've been gone for years. I thought you might have died out there," he said. Flatly, nearly 30 relatives fell silent at once, the air tightening like a stretched wire ready to snap. Years ago, my stepmother, Theresa Kent, had been the mistress who replaced my mother. She wasn't just an expert at playing sweet and innocent, she had trained Marissa to surpass her in the art of manipulation. Marissa moved into our home when we were both just starting high school, and my life shifted into a nightmare. In front of my father, she was demure shy, the perfect stepdaughter. Behind his back, she tore my notebooks and homework into shreds. I tried to drag her in front of my father to confront her, but all she needed was to let her eyes fill with tears and her shoulders hunch like a frightened child. Within minutes, after a few soft words from Theresa, the blame landed squarely on me. He accused me of sabotaging her and lying to get her in trouble. Marissa even hurt herself to get what she wanted. She claimed she couldn't practice piano because she'd injured her hands. In the winter, she poured cold water over her bed and slept in it overnight just to wake up sick and accuse me of cruelty. Each incident drove my father's patience thinner. He scolded me for constant drama and for disrupting the peace of the household. I didn't know how to fight back. I only knew the bitter weight of wondering why he couldn't see how wronged I was. Our relationship fractured further. None of my relatives stood by me. They believed I was the ungrateful troublemaker. And Marissa didn't stop at home. She carried her schemes into school, wearing her mask of fragile sweetness, until teachers and classmates saw her as the poor victim and me as the bully. I became the outcast, the one people whispered about in hallways. I cried. I begged my mother for help, but she had remarried, built a new family, and told me not to disrupt her life. There was no one in my corner. My depression deepened until it swallowed everything. I heard the same venom over and over, that it was my fault, that I had brought this on myself, that I deserved it. To survive, I focused on school. I pushed myself until I got into college, then graduate school, working part-time jobs and seeking therapy to mend the damage inside me. No one knew what it took to climb out of that darkness, and now I was back. Not to hide, not to beg, but to settle things. I wanted closure. I wanted to say goodbye to the years of pain. If Marissa loved stealing what was mine so much, I would let her steal to her heart's content. But this time, it would be on my terms. I slipped free of the memory and steadied my breath. I planned to apologize to my father first to at least repair the threadbare strands of our relationship. But before I could speak, Marissa slid between me and Logan, linking arms with both of us. "Daddy, it's been so hard for her to come back." "Don't be mad anymore," she cooed, before turning her syrupy smile on him. "It's your birthday. We should all be happy." She wore a dress so short it might have been a long shirt, with a deep plunging neckline that showcased every curve. From where I stood, the view was more revealing than I ever wanted. And she punctuated her words with 2 playful bounces that made Logan's gaze falter for a split second. My jaw tightened, but I said nothing. This was only the beginning. I pulled my arm free from Marissa and walked toward my father, leaving Logan frozen where he stood, taking a few seconds to snap out of her spell before hurrying after me. Pretending not to notice anything amiss, I took the gift I had prepared and held it out to my father. "Dad, in the past, I was thoughtless and often made you angry. This time I came back to apologize and hope you can forgive me." It was the first time in my life I had bowed my head to admit fault to him. He only gave a short grunt in response, saying nothing. Lifting my gaze, I turned toward my aunts and uncles, my voice carrying across the room. Dear elders, when I was young, I was reckless and caused you trouble. This time, could someone add me back into the family group chat? I want to send a small token of appreciation for coming to celebrate my father's birthday. The younger relatives perked up at the mention of money, while the older ones tried to act indifferent as if a few bills wouldn't sway them. But when I transferred $30,000 into the group, giving each person exactly $1,000, the mood shifted instantly. Smiles replaced polite reserve, and everyone suddenly insisted the past was long forgotten. Eyes turned toward me, curiosity sparking about how I could afford to be so generous. I let the interest linger before revealing just enough. I was now a senior executive at a Fortune 500 company, dabbling in small investments on the side. I owned 3 properties, lived in a luxury apartment, and drove a car worth close to $1 million. It was all true. Fortune had smiled on me. My investments brought in several times my salary, and I had saved a comfortable amount. Spending a little to bait Marissa was no loss. As the conversation swirled around me, Logan began drawing attention as well. I introduced him to the room as the owner of a company in the capital. Immediately more relatives came forward, eager to ingratiate themselves. Marissa, who had always grown up basking in the spotlight, could not stand to see me become the center of attention. She jumped into the game, mimicking me by transferring $50,000 into the group chat, announcing sweetly that she was truly happy for me and for Dad, and wanted to add to the joy. I hid my smile. Every move she made was falling neatly into place. After college, Marissa had struggled to find a job worth keeping, but her looks had carried her into a carefully crafted persona. Part innocent, part alluring, that made her a popular livestream sales personality. During her broadcasts, she wore micro-minis and skin-tight tops, sometimes dressing in childlike cosplay, swaying to music while cooing Big Brother into the camera over and over. It was a style that never seemed to change. I played along with her image, making a pointedly warm remark. Marissa has always been so generous and kind, I said with deliberate admiration. I often watch your streams. Compared to me, you work so much harder to earn your money, yet you still spend so freely. I feel almost ashamed. My father cut in, clearly annoyed. This is getting out of hand. Throwing money around like this, it must cost plenty. Plenty. His tone was protective toward her, as if my words had been an attack, bending reality to favor her once again. Marissa pouted at him, her syrupy voice paired with eyes that flicked meaningfully toward Logan. Dad, it's your birthday. It's rare to have such a lively gathering. That amount is nothing to me. I can make it back in an hour's stream. As long as everyone's happy, I'm happy. An hour to make $50,000. The relatives buzzed immediately, pressing her for her channel so they could follow her. Logan, too, failed to hide his interest, his gaze locked on her like a man caught in a trance. He blurted out, "No wonder you looked familiar. You're that famous online influencer, aren't you?" The way he said it, it was obvious he had watched her streams more than once. How fitting. Logan and I had known each other for less than 2 weeks, and had only met in person 3 times. He was the son of a difficult former employee of mine, tall at 6'1", with a bright face and a knack for presenting himself as a successful entrepreneur. But beneath the polish, he was greedy for money and easily swayed by beauty. Logan's business was nothing remarkable. The company existed mostly on paper. His apartment and car were gifts from his parents, and rumor had it his love life was a tangled mess of flings and casual affairs. When I hinted that I was looking for someone to marry, he and his mother latched onto me as if I were the golden ticket they had been waiting for. That was exactly what I wanted. Logan wasn't my future. He was the perfect pawn I had chosen for Marissa. A man greedy for money and addicted to beauty, meeting a woman with both. How could I resist watching what would happen when I brought them together? Marissa's answering look was pure challenge before she pulled Logan into a seat beside her. Nearing 30, she still clung to her performance of wide-eyed innocence, her voice dripping with playful sweetness. Don't just stand there, brother-in-law. You've watched my live streams before, right? What a coincidence. Have you ever sent me a gift? Logan's grin was immediate. Of course. See if you remember my account. My stomach tightened, though not in surprise. So it was true, he was one of those frequent tippers in her chat. The way they leaned toward each other, laughing voices carrying just enough to draw attention, began to sour the mood among a few relatives. But my father and stepmother stepped in to smooth things over. Marissa's always been attached to Aubrey, Theresa said, brightly. She's just excited to see her big sister bring someone home. I smiled as if I hadn't noticed a thing. I'm happy too. I never imagined your streams could bring in so much money, Marissa. Not like me stuck in the grind sometimes working late nights. I glanced toward my younger cousins. Some of you asked me about job opportunities earlier. Live streaming doesn't require much to start, does it? Maybe you could learn from Marissa. All eyes turned toward her. Marissa, soaking up the attention, launched into her well-rehearsed spiel about leveraging trending topics and riding the wave to instant fame. She made sure to keep herself at the center, her tone implying that I was on the outside looking in. I simply observed, my smile quiet and knowing. I pulled out my phone and typed in the name Claudia Pearson, the very influencer Marissa had borrowed notoriety from to boost her own profile. A few quick messages later, I had a new ally. I mingled with relatives, letting Marissa and Logan drift to the far end of the table, though Logan kept sneaking glances her way, laughing a little too loudly at whatever she said. Their eagerness was almost embarrassing in its transparency. Across the table, my cousin Tyler Brooks, freshly out of trade school and unemployed, was trying to pick Marissa's brain about using someone else's popularity to boost his own channel. She barely spared him a glance, her irritation visible. I knew Tyler's type, always looking for a shortcut. I crossed the room and smiled. Tyler, tell me what you've been working on. Meeting his curious gaze, I repeated Marissa's own success strategies back to him, then patted his shoulder. Opportunities are everywhere. Sometimes you just need to use what's right in front of you. Catch the right moment, and you could be the one on top. His eyes flicked toward Marissa, thoughtful now. As the night wound down, I decided to give Marissa and Logan their opening. How about we keep the celebration going, I said brightly, pulling out my phone. I'll treat everyone to a weekend at a hot spring resort, 2 days, all expenses covered. Cheers erupted, and even my father, red-faced with drink, beamed at me, offering rare praise. Marissa was quick to claim the stage again. Sis, the places you find online aren't always great. They can be small with bad service. Let me handle it. I know all the best spots. I gave her a few compliments and she beamed happily, taking over the arrangements from cost to location. Soon everyone was headed to the upscale resort she had booked exactly where I wanted her. By late evening, the air had grown thick with noise and laughter, but beneath it there was a current, a pull between Marissa and Logan that was becoming harder to ignore. Their eyes lingered too long, their smiles edged with something electric. I stayed in my role, the one she had always assumed. I was quiet on the sidelines, harmless. Near midnight, when most of the family had retreated to their rooms, there was a knock at my door. Marissa stood there with a bottle of red wine in her hand, her lips curved in a half-smile. Sis, I want to test your fiancé's loyalty. You won't spiral into depression again over something like this, will you? She asked, her tone dripping with provocation. I let my expression shift to a mix of anger and hurt, my voice low. What are you planning now? Haven't you taken enough from me already? She gave a mocking laugh, shoved the bottle into my hands, and looked me straight in the eye. Of course not, we're both from broken families, but I had to come into your home as the pitiful orphan, while you were always better, smarter, more admired, more noticed. Naturally, I have to drag you down. Your father and all those relatives adore you so much, yet all I need to do is act fragile, shed a few tears, and they'll crush you until you break. It's honestly entertaining. She stepped back toward the hallway, her heels clicking sharply against the wood. By the way, I picked this room for you because it looks directly over the hot spring pool. Keep your eyes open. You'll get to see just how much your fiancé wants me. With that, she turned and left, the echo of her steps fading. I pressed the stop button on the small hidden camera I had already set up. Then I took my high-definition camcorder and positioned it at the window, angled perfectly toward the steaming pool below. Pouring myself a glass of wine, I swirled it slowly, my gaze fixed outside. It wasn't long before Marissa emerged into the pool, moving with deliberate grace, soaking in her own confidence. Logan appeared moments later, slipping in like a man being pulled into a net he couldn't resist. But what caught my attention was the third figure, Tyler Brooks, moving carefully in the shadows. I couldn't help the smile tugging at my lips. The kid was learning fast. I pulled out my phone and checked his account. Sure enough, he was live streaming. His feed was already tagged with every hot keyword possible. Marissa Kent, hot spring hot girl. And I immediately called Claudia Pearson the influencer, whose name Marissa had once used for clout. Your chance for payback just landed, I told her, sending her the link. Get in there and take the top spot in chat. I've got more dirt for you to finish her off. In Marissa's mind, I was still that fragile girl who never fought back, who could be made to cry on command. She wanted me to watch her drape herself over Logan to see her win. Under the bright lights, she looked straight toward my window, her eyes challenging me before wrapping her arms around his neck. Logan, never one to turn down something tempting, pulled her in without hesitation. They had no idea Tyler's viewer count had jumped from a handful to thousands in minutes. In the middle of the night, a scene like this was gold. The comments poured in speculating if this was really the famous Marissa Kent, and asking who the man was. Tyler ignored the questions zooming in on her face until all doubt disappeared and her fans began flooding the chat. "Her body's incredible," one wrote. "Send the address, I'll join in a minute." Another added, "A minute I could go all night. That gift I sent her suddenly feels worthless." The viewer count surged past 10,000 and kept climbing. I suspected the stream wouldn't stay up for long, so I quickly typed into the chat, urging everyone to spread positive energy and follow the channel to see the rest. The veteran livestream watchers understood immediately, filling the comments with the same phrase. But before long, the inevitable happened. The main event reached its peak, and I was booted from the stream. I sat back, a twinge of disappointment fading quickly into quiet laughter. Even though Tyler Brooks's account was shut down, the clip from his stream blurred just enough to dodge the worst of the platform's filters, spread across the internet like wildfire. Within hours, it was being chopped, re-edited, and re-uploaded in every corner of social media. Tyler was quick to open a new backup account, posting an apology laced with teasing hashtags that only fueled the frenzy. Main account got locked. Everyone move here for the next episode of Marissa and the Future Brother-in-Law. Can't post it publicly, but you know where to ask. Claudia Pearson, who had once lost a big chunk of her following thanks to one of Marissa's dirty tricks, wasted no time stepping into the storm. With her influence, she guided the narrative and promoted the video, pulling in waves of curious viewers. Despite the hit, her career had taken Claudia's loyal fan base, and sharp instincts had kept her afloat in the competitive influencer world. Now, with a few strategic posts, she directed thousands straight to Tyler's new channel, boosting his numbers and flooding the comment section with tags and mentions. Tyler, for his part, kept working like a professional, capturing every follow-up moment as if he were a seasoned paparazzi. I leaned against the window with a fresh glass of wine, scrolling through the comments on the related videos. Each one was more vicious, more gleeful than the last. I let the satisfaction wash over me until the sound of a trembling, tear-streaked voice carried up from downstairs. "Who the hell is live streaming here, Marissa? You've been filmed. The sponsors are pulling out, the contracts are being canceled. They want you to pay damages, and they even called me directly." It was Theresa Kent, and her panic was genuine. In the pool, Marissa froze, her eyes widening as if the water had suddenly turned to ice. She scrambled to grab her clothes, shoving her way out of Logan's arms. When she looked up toward my window, there was something sharp and venomous in her gaze. I raised my glass in a slow, mocking salute. That was all it took for her to snap. She stormed into the villa, her heels striking like gunshots on the floor, and pounded on my door with a fury that rattled the hinges. "Aubrey Sullivan, you're a vicious bitch. You filmed me without my consent. You want to ruin me, is that it?" she screamed. I didn't answer. She kept shouting, alternating between curses and frantic phone calls to her team. "Handle the crisis now. Calm the sponsors first. Don't waste time coming after me about this." Her voice was loud enough to draw my father and several relatives out of their rooms. They clustered in the hallway, their faces tense with curiosity and judgment. I dabbed 2 drops of eye drops into my eyes until they looked convincingly red and watery, then opened the door slowly. My expression soft and confused. "Marissa, what are you talking about, livestream? From the moment you brought me that wine, I've been in here alone. I haven't streamed anything." She didn't even pause to listen, shoving past me toward the window. Her hand closed around the camera I'd left there, and she thrust it at me like a weapon. "Then what's this? Don't lie to me, you're trying to destroy me." I bit my lip, lowering my gaze, trying to look wounded. My eyes stayed dry, so I pressed my lips together and let my face crumple as if on the verge of tears. I didn't record anything. "Look, the cover is still on the lens. What live stream are you talking about?" Her face drained of color, then flushed again, the tug-of-war of guilt and rage written across it. I reached for my phone, searching for one of the many reposted videos now circulating online. Playing it on speaker, I let my voice tremble. "You and Logan, you really did this behind my back. He's my fiancé. Logan leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes bored, as if none of it concerned him. Theresa's glare could have cut glass, but he didn't flinch. The rest of the family began whispering, pulling out their own phones to check. When the video played, the hallway fell silent for a beat, then exploded. "My God, what is this?" The sister-in-law seducing the brother-in-law caught on camera. One cousin gasped. "This is shameful," another muttered. "With people like her, you never know when she'll stab you in the back." "If I were Aubrey, I'd have beaten her half to death already," someone else said loud enough for Marissa to hear. That account of hers was shady from the start. "She's nothing but trash. She's a Kent, not a Sullivan," an older aunt declared, as if that explained everything. Marissa's lips pressed into a thin line, her hands clenching at her sides, but the damage was done. Every phone in that hallway was lit up with the same images: her smug smile, Logan's eager face, steam curling around them in the hot spring. And every eye that turned toward her now carried the same mix of disgust and disbelief. The sarcastic jabs from aunts, uncles, and cousins flew through the air like darts, each one landing squarely on Marissa Kent. I stayed quiet, watching the scene unravel, realizing with a strange sense of detachment that she had once told me she found drama entertaining, and now I had to agree it really was. But Marissa wasn't one to take the blow lying down. She straightened her shoulders and pivoted the blame toward me without missing a beat. "I didn't do anything. I didn't even know Logan was in the hot spring. This is all your fault, Aubrey. You've been bullying me since we were kids. You lured him here, waited until I'd had too much to drink. And then you staged all of this just to ruin me, didn't you?" Her voice cracked as she added a few calculated sobs, the kind that had always worked in her favor. Theresa Kent predictably jumped in to back her up. "That's right, this has Aubrey's fingerprints all over it. Otherwise, how could the live stream accidentally get out like this? Think about it, she hasn't set foot in this house for years, and now she suddenly shows up all meek and apologetic. Suspicious, isn't it? If Marissa were trying to seduce her brother-in-law, she would have been discreet. She wouldn't just waltz into the hot spring and risk millions in penalties. Marissa isn't that stupid." The two of them worked in perfect sync, their arguments lining up like a rehearsed performance. Given my stained history in the eyes of the family, paired with Marissa's long-cultivated image as the sweet, pitiful victim I supposedly tormented, I could see a few relatives starting to waver. My father's eyes lingered on me, his tone carrying the weight of judgment. "Aubrey, when you're not around, this family is peaceful. But the moment you walk in, it's chaos all over again. When will you learn to behave?" In that final line, I heard not just disappointment, but the bitter edge of resentment. Once upon a time, those words would have sliced me open. I would have cried, shouted, accused him of being blind, and in the end swallowed the pain alone. But now those old wounds had hardened into armor. I didn't feel the sting anymore. I kept my voice even. There are security cameras in every common area of the villa. They'll show I never left my room. My window might face the hot spring, but filming from here would give a high-angle shot. The footage online, same height as Marissa and Logan. I paused. Then locked eyes with Logan, my voice turning cold. "As for the idea that we staged this together, what do you think, Logan?" It seemed the Kents had forgotten there was another player in this little scandal besides themselves. This time, a few slippery words wouldn't be enough to turn the tide. Logan shrugged, his expression detached. "I'm just a willing catch in someone else's trap." My father didn't wait for the Kents to respond. "That's enough, Aubrey. You brought Logan here, of course he'll take your side. If you planned this ahead of time, finding someone to film it wouldn't have been hard. Why is it that from the time you were little, you've never once admitted when you were wrong?" I smiled faintly, meeting his eyes. "Dad, why is it that no matter what happens, you always assume I'm at fault and never Marissa?" He didn't hesitate. "You both grew up in my house. I see the truth with my own eyes. What, just because she's not my blood, I should automatically take your side? When she first came here, she was shy, well-behaved, and you bullied her relentlessly. Yet she still spoke well of you, and you sulked, played at being depressed, left home for years without so much as a call. Meanwhile, she's been here, thoughtful, respectful, by my side." His next words landed like a hammer. "You've been nothing but a disappointment. If I had the choice, I'd rather Marissa were my real daughter." I understood then. To him, Marissa was the timid, dutiful, selfless stepdaughter. I was the arrogant, stubborn one who didn't care. The years I clawed my way through depression, forcing myself to excel, just to survive. They were in his eyes, nothing but pretense and troublemaking. I gave a small, cold smile. Fine. From now on, I won't stand in the way or play the villain between the two of you. From this moment on, you can treat Marissa Kent as your real daughter, and I'll pretend I never existed." My father's face went pale with rage, his voice sharp. "Good, then consider yourself dead to me." He turned away, refusing to look at me even for a second longer. Marissa wasted no time stepping forward to wrap her arms around him, murmuring her gratitude while playing out a touching father-daughter display. Theresa Kent stood at his side, dabbing at her eyes like she was witnessing something deeply moving. Around us, relatives chimed in, agreeing that this was how things should have been all along. And right on cue, my cousin Tyler Brooks stepped forward, his voice loud enough to cut through the crowd. "Aubrey didn't do anything to Marissa," he blurted out. "I saw Marissa tell Logan to meet her at the hot spring tonight. She even used her body to tempt him, and said doing it right in front of her sister would be more exciting." I had been keeping an eye on Tyler, expecting him to speak up eventually. If I had been successfully branded as the schemer who set up Marissa, and with my father and the family siding with her, she could have easily played the victim and cleared her name. But Tyler wasn't here to defend me out of loyalty alone. He was using Marissa's scandal to boost his own channel's views. If she managed to walk away clean, not only would he lose any momentum, he might even face a backlash from her fans. Still, Tyler was only 18, fresh out of trade school, and his impatience was impossible to hide. Marissa, who had never thought much of her cousins, especially him, turned on him with open disdain. "And what did you get from Aubrey to lie for her? At dinner I saw you whispering with her. Everyone did. Don't tell me you're the one who filmed the live stream. Your tiny little channel has no viewers, so now you're stepping on me to get famous." Her accusation hit its mark. Tyler's face flushed crimson, his neck straining as he snapped back. "Yeah, I filmed it, so what? If you can do it, why be afraid of someone filming you? Aubrey would never hurt you. You're the liar here, two-faced and dirty, fooling everyone around you." I was genuinely surprised to hear him call me a good person, but it didn't matter. His words carried no real weight. He was, after all, benefiting from the scandal just as much as anyone else. Marissa and Theresa moved in for the kill. With a few pointed words, they left Tyler speechless. His parents rushed to pull him aside, scolding him and demanding he apologize. But Marissa wasn't finished. "You secretly filmed me broadcast my private life, violated my privacy and my image, and caused serious damage to my reputation. That's illegal. Just wait. I'll call the police and sue you." She knew he was young and impulsive, and now he stood there stunned, unsure how to respond. His parents bowed their heads, apologizing over and over, begging her not to involve the authorities. Other relatives jumped in to mediate. "We're all family here. The boy's just a kid, no need to make it a big deal." Marissa clearly relished the moment, savoring her position of power, as if she had forgotten her own public humiliation and the looming cancellations from her sponsors. True to form, she was ready to leverage the situation to her advantage, extracting concessions while keeping her public image as forgiving and magnanimous. But this time, I wasn't going to let her dictate the terms. "I have a way," I said slowly, "to protect Marissa's reputation and keep her sponsorship deals intact. Would you like to hear it?" Her instinctive response was to scoff. "As if you do something out of kindness." I shrugged, my tone indifferent. "Say whatever you want about me. I'm used to it. But Tyler's only 18, and he's the only one in this family who had the courage to stand up for me. I'm not going to let him get dragged into court right in front of me." That last line hit where I wanted it to. Tyler and his parents looked at me with gratitude, while the rest of the family began urging me to go on. I arched a brow, feigning generosity. Logan Pierce and I were introduced by his mother. We may have talked about marriage, but in reality, we've only known each other for 2 weeks and met 3 times. No one here really knows anything about our relationship. Now that Marissa Kent and Logan have been intimate, there's no way I can continue with him. Instead, why not announce that they've been in love for a long time and are already a couple? They could get married right away, make it official. As for Tyler Brooks, he can post a video apologizing, saying he accidentally stumbled across a joke, but didn't expect it to blow up like this. Of course, this only works if all 3, Marissa, Logan, and Tyler, agree. I made it sound casual, as if I were simply tossing out an idea. When I finished, the room fell into an uncertain silence. Tyler, terrified of facing a lawsuit, bobbed his head eagerly. For Marissa, this was the fastest way to minimize damage. With Logan's polished businessman image, she had no reason to refuse. And as for Logan, greedy for both money and women, there was no way he would pass up the chance to lock down an online star like Marissa, who could earn $50,000 an hour streaming. Not to mention he'd been hungry for her body for a long time. Tonight's fiasco may have interrupted things, but he wouldn't let the prize slip away. Sure enough, Logan smiled, looking charming but calculating. Marissa, marrying you would be my honor. The two of them decided to book the earliest flight to the capital to register their marriage. For now, the situation was neatly wrapped up. After a night of chaos, everyone was too exhausted to gossip any further, drifting back to their rooms. Marissa forced Tyler to record the apology video. My father remained rooted in place, even as Theresa Kent tugged at his arm several times. Only after the others had gone did he finally speak, his voice heavy. At least you still have a little conscience. I smiled faintly, my tone polite but edged. Thank you for the compliment. His hand trembled as he raised a finger at me, shaking with anger, but no words came out. Theresa pretended to hold him back, murmuring soft reassurances. He shook her off, turned and left with one last parting shot. Ungrateful. You'll die without ever learning to repent. I slammed the door shut behind him, my final answer. I would not allow myself to feel anything for him anymore, nor hold out hope for a love that never existed. If I did, I'd be devoured by despair and lose any chance of standing here today. This was the clearest proof yet that he had never cared, never even tried to learn the truth. No matter, this play still had many acts left. The next morning I woke close to noon, stretching leisurely before reaching for my phone. Opening the app, I saw the apology video Tyler posted and a flood of comments tearing him apart. Yet somehow Marissa's reputation hadn't suffered at all. In fact, her fame had only grown. She and Logan had moved fast, posting photos holding hands outside the civil registry office and announcing their marriage on social media. My ally in the shadows messaged me asking about the next step in our plan. I sent back only one line: be patient. Let others handle the next move. Someone better suited will do it well. The relatives were all gone by then, leaving only Tyler pacing the living room like a caged animal. When he saw me come downstairs, he stormed over, face flushed with frustration. Aubrey, I'm getting harassed by Marissa's fans. They're saying I could be detained for a few days, or fined a couple $100, but it's nothing serious. She knows that, so why'd you throw me to the wolves? Do whatever you want, but don't make me your scapegoat. I gave him a cool smile. What I did was for your own good. Tell me, have your followers gone up? Are your views higher? He blinked, caught off guard, then mumbled, well, yeah. More people are following me, but just to trash me. And the views? Yeah, they've gone way up. Looking at his clueless expression, I could already picture how quickly his burst of notoriety would fade. Still, I decided to give him a little boost payment for standing by me earlier. Tonight, I'll introduce you to Claudia Pearson. Learn from her as much as you can. I smiled faintly, my voice carrying the weight of a quiet reminder. Think about it when something goes viral online, especially when it's already topping the trending charts. What happens if the narrative suddenly flips? The reaction explodes even more. So instead of blessing Marissa Kent for some ordinary romance and marriage, the public would much rather see her caught seducing her sister's fiancé. That's the kind of scandal people live for. My mood was calm, almost leisurely as I chatted with Tyler Brooks. It turned out he wasn't a bad kid at all. Actually a little naive, and he truly saw me as his older sister. That fleeting warmth of familial affection, something I hadn't felt in so long, flickered briefly inside me. In the end, I handed him a certain video file, meant just for him. It didn't take long for the storm to break. Barely a minute later, Marissa's live stream chat lit up with a flood of comments. Everyone, breaking news, go check out the latest video from the guy who exposed her yesterday. Viewers in her room began to drop sharply, but the number spiked again as people shared the link, dragging friends to watch. The tone was vicious. So you dare flaunt your happiness now, Marissa? Who's your sister? I'd love to have her seduce me until I forgot where I lived. If I were your sister, I wouldn't get depressed. I'd seduce every man in sight just to drive you insane. I almost laughed at the creativity. My contact on the other end of the line let out an excited yell. Aha, Aubrey, I'm going in, bye. Seconds later, her username appeared in the live stream. Comments spamming relentlessly. Breaking news, 100% verified online influencer. Marissa Kent paid $1 million for a fake marriage. The chat exploded. Insults poured in, crude, sarcastic, and unforgiving. Even her loyal male fans, the ones who used to leave sleazy but affectionate comments, now mocked her openly. My eyes were practically spinning from the flood of messages. On screen, Marissa was visibly rattled. She tried to explain, "It's not what you think." Logan and my sister only knew each other for 2 weeks. Met 3 times. But before she could finish, someone beside her reached over and shut off the live stream, booting every viewer out. The mob's fury immediately redirected to her old videos, spamming demands for her to stop making excuses. Meanwhile, Tyler's video was blowing up beyond anything I'd hoped for. In it, he first apologized for recording without permission, then explained that he'd been pressured into posting the first clip. Finally, with a solemn look, he declared he couldn't let the audience be deceived any longer and was telling the truth now. I was satisfied enough to log off and sleep. But deep in the night, my phone jolted me awake. It was Tyler. "Aubrey, get online right now. Marissa just posted a video with your dad in it. I hadn't expected my father to step in and help her repair her image." In the clip, he claimed my depression was faked, that I had bullied Marissa since childhood, and that the entire situation was a trap I'd set to destroy her. In his words, I was nothing short of vile, deserving to be cast into the deepest pit of hell. And Marissa, though she'd made mistakes, was still worthy of sympathy. It was as if he was inviting the world to laugh at me for being exposed. Less than an hour later, my father called. "Aubrey, I know I've wronged you. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I'm begging you to help Marissa. The money she makes from streaming isn't enough to cover the penalty for breaking her contracts. If she doesn't get help, her life will be ruined. You can name any price, anything you want, as long as you let go of your anger. Please." I could feel my eyes blur before a cold, bitter laugh slipped out, a sound even I found unpleasant. "So even after she calls you a fool to your face, all she has to do is look pitiful, and you and the rest of the family will pressure me until I nearly break. And now you expect me to save her, whether she's ruined or not, has nothing to do with me. If I weren't strong enough, I'd be in the grave next to your precious daughter by now. Go sit beside her and don't call me again." I hung up and sat by the window all night, drained of every ounce of strength. By morning, my assistant reported that my father was being torn apart online for defending Marissa. Most people couldn't fathom it, speculating that she and her mother must have bewitched him, or worse. Some even whispered about hypnosis or blackmail. As the sunlight crept in, I realized something: only by facing my past head-on could I truly be reborn. So I decided to record a long video telling my story in full. On camera, I flipped through an old yellow diary, then held up my official depression diagnosis and therapy records. At the end, I smiled softly. Compared to the pain others have faced, my story is nothing, but I'm proud that I survived it. Live toward the light, and no one can drag you back into the mud. I silently thanked myself for being strong all these years. When I sent the video to Tyler Brooks, I felt as if a great weight had been lifted from my chest. The video spread like wildfire, reigniting the storm. Dozens of influencers and online bloggers swarmed to my father's city, digging into the truth. Relatives who had once mocked me now turned on Marissa Kent, accusing her of humiliating the family. In interviews, they couldn't stop praising the good things I had done, even apologizing to me publicly. Some were moved to tears, recalling how hard I had worked to get into college, despite the crushing pressure I faced. Aunt after aunt spun touching stories about me, speaking so passionately that spit flew from their mouths. I could only sit there speechless. But the absurdity didn't end there. My former therapist came forward without prompting, proudly revealing they had treated me, turning my case into free advertising. To prove their skill in treating depression, they described my condition back then as if it were a tragedy beyond imagining. Old classmates and teachers shared stories of my diligence. Even people who once bullied me joined in slandering Marissa to excuse their past behavior. Within days, Marissa's family became public enemies, shunned like rats in the street. Online people sympathized with my past and admired my resilience. Suddenly, I was surrounded by nothing but good people. It all seemed ridiculous, yet somehow inevitable. Just as I'd told Tyler, I had been turned into a saint. The phrase, "live toward the light and no one can drag you down," became a slogan. Many sought me out, wanting to dig deeper into my story. Some livestream companies and brands even offered contracts to turn me into an influencer more famous than Marissa herself. I refused them all. Instead, I recorded another video for Tyler saying, "No pain is worth glorifying back then." I simply had no other choice. There are many who are far stronger and more determined than I am. I ended by thanking those who had supported me and expressing my wish to return to a peaceful life. Meanwhile, Marissa couldn't pay the massive penalties from lawsuits filed by her sponsors and partners. My father and stepmother, no matter how much they adored her, couldn't save her. Even after selling their house and car to help, they couldn't fill the gaping hole her debts left. With no other options, Marissa turned to Logan Pierce's family for help. But his mother, already humiliated at work and forced to resign out of fear I might retaliate, was livid when she learned of Marissa's debt. She wanted to strangle her on the spot. Somehow, Marissa uncovered the truth about Logan's family finances, that his supposed wealth was fake. The company was drowning in debt, the house and car were on loans, and the million she had given him was his life savings. Furious, she demanded the money back. But against Logan and his mother, she was powerless. They tore her apart without mercy. At one point, she and her mother came to my door begging for help. I had security escort them out without a second thought. My father never showed his face. Eventually, Marissa didn't end up working in a factory to repay her debts because most of her partners just wanted their money back and didn't push for harsher action. Logan never divorced her, but he and his mother turned her into a money-making tool. They forced her into bizarre live stream stunts to attract viewers, eating revolting food dressing in absurd costumes, even performing provocative dances while pregnant. Rumor had it she tried to run away several times, even called the police for domestic abuse, but failed each time. My father and stepmother wanted to help her, but with nothing left but a meager pension, they lived in a shabby rental, barely scraping by. When I heard these stories, I felt nothing. No pity, no anger, just emptiness. Around that time, I grew close to a real friend, a fellow content creator, who never inserted herself into drama, only shared snacks and laughter with me every day. The biggest surprise was Tyler. He messaged me one day, "Sis, being an online pretty boy isn't as great as it looks. I've decided to study and work toward becoming a licensed therapist." Every few days, he'd update me on his progress, as if I were his real sister. I only replied once, "Keep it up, you annoying brat." 2 messages came from unknown numbers, short one-word apologies. I didn't bother to judge or think about them. I deleted them all. The past had been buried. All I had left was the present, to embrace life, to keep moving forward, and to live towards the light. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next videos.